This is El Paso County District Attorney Michael Allen. Thank you so much for joining us today and answering some questions that a lot of us have. Obviously, we know when crimes of this size and nature happen, it can take sometimes days, weeks, maybe even months. But give us a little sense of the latest of this investigation. What are you looking at and where does it stand?
Well, obviously, the primary concern is that 5 people were killed and multiple people wounded. Those are going to be the primary focuses going forward as we evaluate this investigation for potential charges. I anticipate that the suspect will be out of the hospital potentially as early as today, which means we could be in court maybe today or tomorrow. And then really at some point in the coming days, that case will be transferred to us officially, and we'll start to review for official charging of that suspect and then be able to call him a defendant. We also have to note that anybody charged with a crime is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and that'll be true in this case. That said, we're looking at also hate crime potentially, if there's any bias-motivated aspects of this. There's obviously some evidence of that based on the fact of where this occurred, and we're going to be looking closely at that and any statements that he may have made prior to coming down here to commit this horrible act. And then that, if there's enough evidence there, we'll be adding those charges as well.
I'm glad you brought up the possibility of investigating this as a hate crime. What exactly do you look at when you are investigating something like that? Are you looking into social media platforms or statements he made, anything in his house? Tell us a little bit about what an investigation into a hate crime entails.
Yeah, so basically everything that you said, all of the above. We'll look at everything that we can get access to, typically by search warrant if it's a social media post, that kind of thing. Any writings that potentially might exist that we can get our hands on, and then any statements that he might have made to other people prior to or in the days leading up to this. But the very fact of where it occurred is also a piece of that evidence. And we're going to be looking at all that to make that determination. I think it's important for the community to know that we are looking into that sort of thing to really hold somebody accountable if it's appropriate for a hate crime type of event.
You mentioned the suspect's in the hospital right now. Can you give us any indication of the extent of his injuries? And then on top of that, when he is released and this crime is investigated further, what potential charges might he face?
Well, obviously, he's going to be facing homicide charges. It looks like, most likely, first-degree murder charges, so after intent and deliberation, which means that the top-end sentencing option at the very tail end of this thing would be life in prison without parole. We're also looking at extreme indifference murders as well, which means that if somebody shoots into a crowded room indiscriminately, that's also a Class 1 felony, meaning life in prison without parole. So those are the very top-end charges. Bias-motivated crime in Colorado, the top-end charge on that is a Class 4 felony, so it's much lower than the top-end murder charges. But it's important that we pursue that as well. So that should give us an idea as to what we're looking at.
Well, we thank you so much for joining us. We expect to get more information later today as well at a press conference at the police department. We're told that's at noon here at Mountain Time. We'll be sure to update you with the latest for tonight's primetime shows.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.